I'd now like to invite all the candidates for VP Welfare and Community onto the stage.
There's no bin here.
Right, okay, everyone. Becky's up first. Just a reminder to all candidates that you are live, so please don't swear, and you have 5 minutes for your hust. Becky Cook, everyone.
Hi, I'm Becky and I'm running for the position of Vice President Welfare and Community because I'm passionate about welfare and I think I can make a real difference. I have 4 key pledges, if elected, which I'll sort of briefly run through now. My first key pledge is that I want to put welfare at the heart of everything we do in LUSU. Welfare should enable a better student experience, it shouldn't be boring or restrictive. I pledge to campaign for free cloak, cream and sugar, as I feel this is an area where students are currently let down. I will also work with the Vice President Academic, or Education as it's now called, to improve welfare positions in academic departments. Currently, when your attendance drops or you're accused of plagiarism, you're sent an angry email. Instead, you should be signposted to information and services which can help you, so you can feel able to deal with the pressurised environment that is university. I have a deep understanding of welfare from my experience as Pendle Women's Welfare Officer and my current role as Pendle Vice President Welfare and Community, as well as campaigning for issues regarding welfare outside of the university. I would also put welfare at the heart of accommodation. If elected, I would conduct a study into the students' experiences and perceptions of LUSU living to identify and work on key areas for improvement and make sure these changes are implemented. My second key pledge is to make welfare more efficient for JCRs and societies. If welfare is to be at the heart of everything we do, it needs to be less bureaucracy around things like ordering condoms and first aid kits. These are issues I've experienced both on the JCR and from my time on the Bailrigg FM exec. I pledge to review and improve the way we do welfare in standing committees, subcommittees and societies. The LUSU strategic plan states that it will improve welfare for student officers, and I would work with the cross-campus officer for welfare to make sure this is happening. If elected, I would also improve welfare resources for students. Too often, students have friends or flatmates that are struggling with serious issues such as anxiety, depression or risk-taking behaviour, but don't know what to do and feel responsible. I would create a basic information poster for each kitchen, signposting students to a variety of services, without all the jargon so often used in publications. I have formulated this point from consultations with students who know that there is help available, but not where to get that or who to contact. The JCR drop-in sessions also need to be improved to make them more applicable to students' needs and to fulfil my third pledge to reach those students who are hard to reach. The students who need help more often than not don't come to events and don't contact their welfare officer to talk about their problems. To improve support for these students, I would work with Nightline and the recently improved counselling service to create a completely anonymous online system where students could ask for help and talk about their problems without the awkwardness of seeing that person they've confided in sugar. I've consulted with students who have experienced serious issues whilst at Lancaster, and they said that they find the current system off-putting and would prefer this new system. I've also been in contact with an IT consultant who's determined that this is a viable option. I have experience of working with hard-to-reach students. Last year, I met with the Mature Student Society, listened to their issues and acted on those to provide them with an event which was beneficial to them. As well as anonymously dealing with welfare issues, I would always be on hand to support issues in person, such as supporting an international student after a traumatic robbery. Another way to target students that are hard to reach is to work with the cross-campus officer for the LGBTQ star. I sat on the LGBTQ star last year, so I understand the issues faced by this community. If elected, I would support the gender and sex seminars that were done last year as a way to support students who are struggling with non-binary gender issues and to educate the student population. Leading on from my earlier point that welfare should enable a better student experience, my fourth key pledge is to increase creativity, ingenuity and originality in the events and campaigns that we do as a welfare team, building on events such as the Action for Happiness campaign and Go Green Week. My Media and Cultural Studies degree gives me the edge in this aspect, as I've studied issues of gender, race, trans, race, religion, disability and marginalisation, to name a few, from a critical academic perspective. This allows me to understand welfare issues in depth, which allows me to act on them in the most engaging way possible. I have extensive experience of organising campaigns. Over the summer, I worked as a student fundraising intern at Bernardo's. I produced a set of recommendations for student fundraising campaigns, and I've also worked with Stepping Stones Nigeria to put on the poetry event in Friday night, which raised over £300, which was amazing. This experience means I'm the best candidate to work with the Vice President activities to act as the lead officer on LUSU Gives projects and promotions. This last year has seen some amazing charity events on campus, and this is something we can really build on and make it amazing. To sum up then, because I know I talk too much, vote for me to put welfare at the heart of everything. Vote for me to make welfare more efficient for JCRs and societies. Vote for me to reach those students who are hard to reach. And vote for me for creative, original and innovative campaigns. Vote Becky. Thank you.
Next up is Josie O'Gorman.
Hey everyone. I don't believe I can ever find the words to fully express the passion I have for this role. I've dedicated myself to a number of campaigns across my 3 years at Lancaster, and I've seen ideas become events, thoughts become campaigns, and students become friends. I have the experience of a JCR and CCO role, have been involved in the cast of the Vagina monologues for the past 2 years, and spent the summer working for an organisation providing facilities for disabled children, teenagers and young adults. I believe the change of remit within the role of welfare and community has broadened the scope of students that we can represent. The community aspect of the role, especially engaging a community at Lancaster, will enable us to provide more impacting campaigns. The role of Easy Tiger is a great tool for engaging with the local area. However, it was a decision to hold a flash mob in town for the Vagina monologues, which I believe encapsulates the engagement of the community around us. It was not long until residents took note of the statistics. 1 in 3 women abused in her lifetime. 1 in 3. That's not just students, that's 1 in 3 women. Alongside this, I've represented equality for our students, broken stigmas and taboos, and come together as a collective body to lobby our university for change. But there's still more to do. After 3 years of working in various teams of dedicated students, I feel enthusiastic, dedicated, and ready to take a leadership role as your VP. As our own students have acknowledged, many voices are greater than one, but I want to make sure that one is heard. So what would I do? I want to address the issue of housing in regards to off-campus provisions for students, yet also look closely at on-campus rooms and rent inflation. I want to work alongside LUSU Living to ensure the accolade we have for on-campus housing is mirrored in town, for example through quickening response rates. I want to create housing responses for students by students to fully inform their decision to choose to move off campus. I want to support international students who are not guaranteed on-campus accommodation in finding the best properties for them. I believe that students should be consulted on the work of their full-time officers as best possible. I would like to work closely with college administrators to feedback and discuss cross-campus campaigns and welfare issues. I would like to keep a displayed copy of what I would like to do so that students can look at the progress of it. I would like to utilise student media but also get out there and talk to students. I'd like to introduce acknowledgement of all student emails within 24 hours to let students know I'm dealing with their concerns. I'd like to work alongside the VP Education to ensure no discrimination lives within seminars. I want to encourage innovation in campaigns in recognition of events this year such as Go Green Week, Campus Blackout and Cupid Comes to Lancaster. I want to ensure JCR officers feel as comfortable as possible in their roles and to provide them with training specifically in providing support for LGBTQ students and other minorities. I would like to continue on the fantastic work of our current VP, Equality, Welfare and Diversity, to address current issues around us, such as the removal of internal phones in rooms and the potential closure of any welfare services in Lancaster. Finally, I would like to work alongside other full-time officers to inspire students to get involved in their union. For me, it's been a long journey to get to this moment in time, but I have so much left to give. Thank you.
Next up we have Tappy.
Hello, I'm Taffy, and I'm running to be your VP Welfare and Community Officer. First things first, I want to look at things. I want to look at the pastoral care that we get from our colleges. So I want to look at making sure the students know what they can get from their colleges with respect to the SCRs and with respect to our college administrators, and making sure that we can appreciate them, and that we can get them on board when we want to do cross-campus events. And at the same time, that could act as a platform at which we can advertise the kind of stuff that you can get from your colleges with respect to welfare. And at the same time, I can also create a platform at which we can advertise the things that you can get from your students' union with respect to welfare and with respect to financial aid and such. And that ties in with the counseling services and making sure that people are aware of what is available to them and making sure that everyone just gets the best out of the students' union. And I also want to make sure that people know what they can tolerate. This counts in within lectures, so making sure that you know that you don't have to stand for discrimination, you don't have to be in an environment where you're discriminated against. An example is in Pendle. In the accommodation, there wasn't any heating for the first three months of one of the terms, and the initiative of one of the students led to the college getting money back from the university because, well, we weren't getting what we were paying for. So I want students to know that they can actually get involved and they can do something to bring change towards where they are. And this also relates to LUSU Living, because I know a lot of people are having issues with LUSU Living, and even though everyone is trying to bludgeon LUSU Living, it is doing some good. But what I want to look at is all the things that they've gotten complaints about, and probably make a list and see what kind of issues are taking the longest time to respond to, and seeing if it's a matter of needing to outsource the amount of work to other divisions within the students' union. For example, trying to get more students to, have jobs within the students' union by working on those issues. I want to engage with the local community. So this would involve working with the VP education and with Involve. I want to look at getting involved with schools, because there's a bit of a stigma at the moment where people are thinking, oh, that's a local community and that's us, and we're already separated enough by the distance. It'd be good if we can get more in touch with the local community. And I'm thinking about maybe a tutoring service, because I've taught in a GCSE science setting before, and it's not that difficult, and it gets people engaged with the community, and it gets the community engaged with the university. And I also want to look at promoting some of the activities that happen in town, like Larks in the Park, which is sort of an activities and talent-based show that happens in town, but people don't really know about it, and that way we can get in touch with the local community. With respect to the environment, I want to look at opening some sort of freebie shop. This would involve, at the end of a term, people normally throw away their stuff, and that ends up in the landfill sites. Some people do give those stuff to charity shops, but then they don't really, a lot of people don't really go to that much effort. So if we could collect all the stuff that people want to throw away, we could first of all recover the stuff that's been very nicely taken from our bars, and we can collect all the valuable stuff and have a free shop in the first week, where it's sort of like a swap shop. People just come in and take what they want, and that saves us from having to fill up our landfill sites. I want to look at things like saving water and saving energy. For example, doing another blackout event, which originally started in Pendle. I want to look at revamping some of our campaigns. For example, the Easy Tiger campaign is a great campaign which looks at making sure you don't drink too much and making sure that you can remember your night. But I feel like that kind of campaign happens, if it happens throughout the entire year, it loses some of its value. So I want to do it during Freshers. I want to do it during Freshers Week. That way everyone can get involved with the campaign, and then reintroduce it as stay classy, stay safe, looking at more serious issues such as the kind of stuff that happens on a night out, making sure everyone's safe, making sure everyone is warm. And thank you.
And finally we have Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom Fox and I'm running for the position of VP Welfare and Community. As the elected cross-campus officer for welfare and Nightline publicity officer, I'm heavily involved in LUSU's campaigns and discussions around ensuring that we're living and studying in a safe and fair environment. The insight that both these positions has offered me alongside the experience of working for LUSU as an employee and being involved in supporting the different services they provide, is something that I find invaluable and would allow me to take on a role with stronger objectives in mind. As students, we deserve to be consulted on decisions made by both the university and the union that will directly affect our welfare. But often we are not. Just recently it was announced that the internal phones on campus will be removed. And though this only affects students living on campus, it's a decision that highlights a lack of consultation of the student body. It's a decision based on conversations had 2 years ago with 25 students who were asked, did you use your internal phone? And the majority said no. This is not something you can base a decision on that will affect thousands of students. The same can be said of the council service, which thankfully, through the current VP EWD's efforts, is now being reviewed to benefit students. And I aim to ensure that this fulfills our requirements next year. Unfortunately, the internal phones will probably be removed, and so I not only promise to do everything in my power to ensure the university don't make decisions without our consultation again, but that when they do, they stick to the assurances they've made through negotiations. For example, they've promised to replace the internal phones with Skype, but when will they do that? Immediately, a month after, a year after? It's a welfare issue if students are left without a form of communication in their room, and I think it's something we have to act on now. The role of VP Welfare Community is to lead on internationalisation, and it's something that has been discussed for the last 2 years that we introduce an International Students Association. I want this, and I want it to be sustainable and run by international students, but supported by LUSU throughout, with the input of each cultural society and the international officers that students have voted in. However, the association is not the solution to engaging or helping more international students. We as a union and the university do have services available that aid all students with the vast majority of issues they face, whether they be international, postgraduate, undergraduate or mature. One of the things I really want to concentrate on is the promotion of these services, ensuring that as soon as students step foot on campus, they are made aware of things like the Education and Sport Office in LUSU or the student base run directly by the university. Whether it's finance, housing, legal matters or issues to do with mental health, these are the kind of issues that provide help, the kind of services even that provide help. I think not only does making more students aware of this improve their welfare, but it also helps us as a union discover the problems with these services and work to fix them. I also want to address campaigning. Welfare campaigns have always struggled to engage a vast majority of students. And I think even though it's essential we talk to students on a one-to-one level, it's important that we do this in an interesting and informative way. Being involved in the Action for Happiness campaign, I created a video that hit 2,500 views and is currently the most popular video on LE1 TV's site. The atmosphere created by this campaign was incredibly positive and involved the vast majority of students in different ways. I think we need more of this for the harder hitting campaigns, especially issues that students might become blind to, like drinking, like Easy Tiger. The involvement of societies is also something I feel would benefit campaigning. For example, the Theatre Society or the Film Production Society creating a powerful video about bullying at university that would really affect students. Bullying is an issue that seems to be neglected when we reach university, and it really can't afford to be. It's something that can be homophobic, racist, sexist, or just plainly because you're different. As we know, Lancaster University is fortunately a very diverse campus, but this is an issue that occurs, especially in first year when you are in many ways forced to live with the people in your flat. I want to set up a campaign that both promotes the services available to students being bullied and also targets the bullies themselves, because I do believe that in many cases, students are just unaware of the cultures around them and need to be educated. As VP Welfare and Community, it will be part of my job to ensure that this happens. I think issues like the A&E service are really good as well to promote us as a community, and we can work together with students and with the local residences to fight for the safety of it. Not only this, but I think that we can work with Involve to ensure that we get more businesses for the students, not just schools, and work with the police and the council to help to make sure that welfare campaigns are the best that they can be. I'm going to summarise the main aims for you really quickly. To ensure that decisions made by the university and the union that affect our welfare are made with the consultation of students in mind and that they stick to the promises they make. To build up our community so that it works with a variety of different people, whether they're residents of Lancaster or students. To not give up on educating students who haven't had previous experience with the many cultures that we have on campus. And to both engage and inform when campaigning on issues, and to focus on raising awareness of the services available to every student. If you like the sound of anything I've said, please vote Tom Fox #1 for VP Welfare and Community. Thank you.
Right. We are now taking questions from the floor. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, crikey.
Hello. Becky, I think, was the one that focused on office hours a lot, but I'm the college council rep for Cartmel, and we've just done a bit of research into how the students feel about different things, and one of them was office hours. And we found that only 6% feel they would benefit from them, and I'm not suggesting in any way removing them, but how would you try and engage students or try and have the welfare officers interact with students in a better way that students might feel they may benefit from?
Right, okay. You've each got a minute to answer this question, and we're going to Becky first.
Yeah, I think that drop-in sessions as they stand don't work. I think that people don't want to go and see a student which they might see in Sugar or might see in a class. I think that they find that quite intimidating, and I've consulted about that, and a lot of people seem to find that really intimidating and off-putting. I'd either want to look at a way to change the drop-in sessions so that they have more input into this anonymous online system that I'm thinking of creating, so that welfare officers can have input into that and can answer questions anonymously through that service. Other things that I would be thinking of doing, possibly more publicisation of the drop-in sessions, but again, we've tried that and it doesn't always work. It's not something, it's a good idea, but it's not something that students really engage in when they have serious problems. But I think just being an approachable person on campus can help a lot.
Okay, thank you. Josie?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of Becky's points. I think that office hours can often be forgotten. I know from experience being on a JCR for a year, I rarely got people attending my office hours. And I think that a lot of the points that Becky's made about moving things online are very valuable points. Alongside that, I would also increase publicity, because I know as a fact, as an undergraduate, I wasn't sure what office hours really were. I was told about them in passing, but nothing really brought my mind to what I could actually go to an office hour for, or even the fact that I could go there just for a chat. So I think definitely like raising the publicity or working with the JCRs in particular to try and come up with an action plan to make them better known is definitely a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Tappy?
It's hard to disagree because the points are pretty clear. I would also stress that it would be good to advertise that people shouldn't suffer alone, because a lot of people, when they have these issues, they think, oh, I can't tell anyone, I'm just going to deal with it myself. But if we did a campaign or did something to say, actually, these issues would be best handled if you spoke to someone, if you engaged, that would really improve the success of our office hours.
And Tom?
Yeah, it's obviously, I agree with the fact that it definitely needs work. One of the things I think that working for Nightline and publicising, the problem that we find is that students don't always want to talk to students. They want to talk to people who are maybe in a different position. And I think Tappy said it well when he said it's working with the college and the college SCR and making sure that we promote not only the office hours that the JCR have, but also what the SCR can offer. And I think it's something that we're discussing at the moment as an EWD team, is how we can make the office hours more like attractive to students. And I think it's an idea of, I've said, making people aware as soon as they get here to Freshers Week what JCR does, what the welfare officers are there for, and just getting it in from the moment they step foot on campus.
Thank you. Liz? Yep.
Hello. Oh, hi. My question was just about, as Tom touched on earlier, Involve. I think for a long time, Involve have kind of been a separate entity, and they've been kind of moving along, doing their own thing. And we kind of highlighted this year on the fact that they needed some officer leadership in what they're doing, because they do some fantastic things. When we asked another students' union what they thought of Lancaster University, one of the things that they brought up was the Voltage programme that Involve ran. I just wanted to know how each of you would be working with Involve, how you think they could benefit your role, and what they have done in the past that you thought was good.
Okay. Tom, if you can take that one first, please.
One of the things that I think Involve do really well is they have especially with schools, is the options they have for people who want to teach. There's a variety of different schools that they're connected with, and they tend to have sessions to to teach you pretty much every week, so it's very open in that sense. One of the things I want to work on is opening it up to businesses that other students who study certain things aren't really getting the experience they could get. So, for example, we've got enough for people who want to teach, and a lot of people who are part of the management school. There's a lot of opportunities there for. But people who are doing arts degrees who don't want to teach, it's opening up that kind of other available businesses that we can work with in Lancaster, that they can, something that they're passionate about, which isn't anything that is already done, and it's exploring new kind of connections that we can make.
Thank you. Tappy?
I actually went and spoke to Involve just last week, and I was telling them ideas about how we can engage schools in Lancaster with students, and my idea about actually offering tutoring services that were giving students a chance to get involved with the local community, giving them a chance to actually earn some money, because just tutoring, it's quite a simple thing, and I actually found it easier to tutor physics when I never studied it as a GCSE subject. And when people are doing, when students are doing their GCSE subjects, they do need extra help from time to time. And it'd be a great way to get them involved with the local community. And when I spoke to Involve, they were quite happy with that idea and wanted to take that on board. So that's how I'd do it.
Thank you. Josie?
Yep. I think Involve's a really good asset to Lancaster, and we should be working quite closely with them. For example, I know this week, advertised on their website, I believe it's on Wednesday, they've got a session that's about enterprise in Hills. And I think the focus of the programme is mainly to encourage women to start their own businesses and to get into business. And I think that would be a great thing to work alongside, just raising awareness of like women in the workplace, or working alongside Involve to really get them involved in our campaigns as well.
Thank you. And Becky?
I think volunteering is one of the most rewarding things you can do. It's certainly one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. I've been volunteering in various things since I was about 14, I think. I think one of the things that LUSU Involved does really well is working with schools, but also with societies on campus. I went to see the Oxfam Society a couple of days ago, and they're looking at promoting their IF campaign and the idea of land grabbing within schools. And I think that's such a valuable skill to learn, because they're looking at how to approach their campaign from an understandable perspective for 11-year-olds. I think one of the things that Involve maybe needs to improve on is doing more volunteering in the big summer away trips that they do, like to China and I think, is it Malaysia? I think they can involve more volunteering with the local community, and I think that would benefit the students that go on those schemes. But overall, I think it's good, and I think that if it had more structure perhaps, and more inclusion for the students, then I think that could only benefit Involve.
Thank you very much. Laurie, next question.
Hi. First off, just want to say well done to all the candidates. I think you spoke really well on your hosts. My question concerns the vagina monologues, because I'm friends with the current director, and I know this is her concern. What was your favourite part of the 2013 show, and how would you improve on it for next year? Because it'll be your role as producer if you get elected as Welfare and Community.
Okay. If that question can first be answered by Tappy, please.
I'd actually say I didn't attend the ones this year, actually, because I had a lot of work on that time. So with respect to improvements I would make this year, I can't answer that question, unfortunately.
Okay. Tom, next.
Like Tappy, I didn't make it. I was working all 3 nights. But I did actually see the dance as a video. So I know that I like the idea of getting more kind of societies involved in it that could be involved in it. I know that FemSoc have just are up and coming, and I think they definitely really want to get more involved in it. So it's kind of finding societies that could help promote it, and just getting as many people on campus as we can involved.
Thank you. Becky?
My favourite part from this year's Vagina Monologues has to be the integration with the Lancaster Women's Aid charity, and the integration with the 1 Billion Rising campaign as a whole, because I think they're so current. I think sometimes people don't connect as much to theatre, and they feel that they don't quite understand it as much, but I think everyone can connect to issues of 1 in 3 women being raped or abused in their lifetime, and can really connect to troubles happening in Lancaster. For next year, I know that Rape Crisis are trying to set up a new rape support centre in Preston, and I'd love for next year to be like a massive fundraising for them and to really help them get their centre off the ground.
Thank you, and Josie.
Yeah. Can you repeat the question for me, sorry?
Hello. What was your favourite part of the 2013 show, and how would you improve on the vagina monologues for the 2014 showing, which you'll be producing as your role?
Yeah. I was involved in vagina monologues this year, and I think the best part for me was working in a team of women and them having the opportunity to talk amongst other women about the experiences they, in some cases, had gone through themselves. What I'd like to change for next year is I want the vagina monologues to be bigger and better, if that's possible, but just making everybody on campus aware of it and really trying to focus on, in particular, men being involved in it, or any genders, in fact, being involved in it and really making it a movement.
Thank you very much. Next question, Rosalia.
Hello. My question is about housing. You all sort of briefly touched on it, in particular, LUSU Living, but I haven't really heard any concrete policy on how you would change it, how you'd improve it. I think somebody mentioned the idea of having a list of student issues and how fast they're responded to, but as the head of LUSU House de facto, then you'd have it, you'd be able to acquire that information anyway. I just want to know what you would actually physically do to try and improve LUSU Living.
Okay, that question is first going to Josie, please.
I think a lot of my manifesto does focus on housing, and I don't think that's necessarily limited to LUSU Living, but in particular with LUSU Living, I think being elected in the role, you'll be able to know a lot more about it, and currently as undergraduates, I don't know if we're the most informed about it, but for me in particular, I'd like to get a collective number of students that have particular complaints. For example, if there's recurrent cases of people being without boilers or internet access, to get them in figures themselves. And do work on the response rate alongside LUSU Living. But I think it's a lot about communication that, if elected within the role, I'll have that medium and the platform to do it.
Thank you. Becky?
I think sort of like experiences and perceptions of LUSU Living vary so differently between students. You talk to some people, they say it's amazing, you should like stay with them all the time, they're really cheap. You talk to other people, they say they never fix any problems, they've had no heating or no washing machines or anything. And I think because there's such a difference in experiences and within LUSU, like positive and negative, I'd like to conduct a full study into actually what LUSU Living do and what people think about LUSU Living. And then that would provide like concrete information and a wide range of concrete information for us to act on, so that we can make LUSU Living better and not just like base it on what we have like misconceptions from our own experiences.
Thank you. Tom?
I think as a union we're really lucky to have LUSU Living, and I think Steve Smith put it himself when he said it's a very high risk operation to have LUSU Living in the union, and I think it's not something that we should attack. In a sense, we should work with them, and we need to obviously sit down with LUSU Living and the people that run LUSU Living and find out what the problems are going on with them, because they're not doing it on purpose. It's not something that they're doing because it's something that we need to work with them and see why their response rating aren't as good as they could be, or what we could do to open up and help them. And I think the best way to do that is obviously consult them. And it's not just that, but I mean, I think it was Matt Saint, who's actually here, and he wrote an article last year saying that people genuinely do say that LUSU Living is a good service. So if it is a massive problem, we need to really, really need to have students tell us. We need to make them aware that if they have a problem, they can tell us and we'll sort it out. Yeah.
Thank you. And finally, Tappy.
I've got to say I agree with Tom on that point, because and Becky for that matter, because LUSU Living does do some good. And of course, people do still complain because they've got issues within their own living spaces. That's why I said I would like to actually get the figures of the kind of complaints they get with relative proportions, that we can see, we can consult with them as to what's the best way to actually tackle all these things. Because there may be other services within LUSU that would not mind having a little bit more work. I don't know if the input desk wouldn't mind sifting through some of the complaints and seeing actually is there a better way to engage this. But that's because I've gotten a suggestion from one of the input desk people. So yeah, I think it would be good if we could take a look and just let people know that there's a bit of an open door policy with me, so you can just come down, and if you have any complaints that are not being sorted out, you can always talk to me.
Thank you. there any more questions from the floor? And then to Patrick. Okay.
Okay, this question's for Tappy and Tom, really. As candidates for welfare and community, neither of you have attended any LGBTQ meetings or events until you started campaigning. Do you think, in this role, as your role of the VP for welfare and community, you would be an appropriate representative and a part of the support network for the LGBTQ Star Association, which is part of your remit?
If Tappy could take that one first, please.
I'd like to say yes, because first of all, I would look at advertising the events more, because I think there was a trip to Manchester that happened recently, wasn't there? And I did not find out about that until I got the minutes in LUSU Council. So if there's a way to better publicize these things, then I think people will get more involved. And I wouldn't ignore one particular group just because I wasn't involved before my position, you know. So, yeah.
Thank you, and to Tom.
I think, yeah. It's because I haven't been to... I, as the chair of the EWD Council, and I go to LUSU Council, I do read the minutes every time that they're out, and I do know what's going on with the current LGBTQ. I don't maybe not read the minutes as precisely as you should, but I know what's going on and I know what is happening and the current bylaw changes and things like that. So I wouldn't say that I'm completely unaware of what's going on with LGBTQ. And like Tappy said, it's not something that just because I haven't been to it beforehand, I'm just going to ignore it afterwards. I do think LGBTQ is a massive association on campus, and I am very proud to say that as a university, we do really, we really respect and help as a students' union the LGBTQ, and I would definitely not jeopardise that. I'd keep that going and trying to improve it as, in any way that I could.
Thank you. Where's Laurie gone? Next question.
Charlie forgot his question. Obviously, as you know, this role now is welfare and community. I just wanted to ask, with those two things in mind, what new campaigns would you start for welfare and community that haven't been touched on before?
Okay, if we could take that first. If we could take that first to Becky, please.
I think community is something that we do really well at Lancaster. The colleges all come together and you have your college community and then you have your university community as a whole. I'd really like to make more like inter-college sort of events, if that's a word, because we have a lot of inter-college sports, but I feel that that only really engages sports people, and then we have Roses, which engages a lot more people. So I'd like to have maybe some kind of college challenge event. We looked at it a little bit in Go Green Week, where we had colleges having pledges and seeing which college could get the most pledges. And I think with town, more charity events engages more town people, if that's a word. And I think that having a difference of events
15 seconds.
Because when we did the Stepping Stones event on Friday, we had loads of people from the local community come down, and it was a really successful event.
Thank you. Josie?
Yep. I'd like to run a campaign kind of aimed at cross-campus officers and JCRs, where I've been recently in contact with a hate crime officer for the district, and I'd like to work alongside him to provide more training for individual colleges and JCRs in particular, so that they knew how to tackle any issues their students were having. But also I think moving campaigns into the Sugar House, because it's really a good platform to get students aware of campaigns. And I'd like to do a campaign in particular there about body confidence issues, because I don't think they've been explored as much as I'd like them to be.
Thank you. Tappy?
I actually want to look at a pub culture campaign, because because at the moment actually there's a lot of pre-drinking culture that is killing the local businesses, and I want to look at something that encourages students to actually go out to pubs and have some food, maybe have a couple of drinks with their housemates. And because when I first came here, that was a completely different cultural experience for me, and I quite enjoyed that. And I think if we encourage students to do that more, that would actually get people more in touch with the local community. And also mentioned I want to start that freebie shop, which would be a bit of a welfare concern, because, well, we don't want to, affect our environment too badly.
Thank you. Tom?
With the welfare campaign, I mentioned it in my hust. Bullying is something that I think people just think ends at high school, and it's something that definitely doesn't. It definitely happens at university, and it's something that I've consulted with other students on, and they feel, even if they weren't directly affected by it, they know people that are. You know, it tends to happen mostly with people that you live with, and it's something that I think, especially in first year, we need to address, and we need to make a campaign which is specifically for people who are being bullied, and to open up the services. It's just another one of those making people aware of things, and to also to make people who they're just not aware of why certain things aren't wrong to them. You know, we need to open that up and make people realise why things can be so easily accepted, and it's kind of growing on that idea. To do with community, it's like I said, working with Evolve and trying to get people who don't know what they're going to do, who are lost, and especially in third year, and they haven't really got options, and try and broaden their experiences with businesses.
Thank you. Before we go on to our next question from the floor, I just need to say that if ex-Lancaster students are tweeting questions, I can't read them out. I can only read out questions from current Lancaster students. Just to point that out, so that's I can't read them out. And now I'm just gonna take a question from Twitter from the Islamic Society. This is to all candidates. How will the Vice President Welfare and Community candidates work to engage and continue LUSU's good and open relationship with faith societies? And if we can go first to Tom, please.
I think it's great that we have a lot of faith societies on campus, you know, Islamic, and we have the chaplaincy centre, and working with people like that, and so that we can all just respect each other's faiths. Obviously, everyone has different views on things, and I think as long as we ensure that nobody's harming other people's way of thinking, then I think that's something that we definitely need to promote, and I think we can strengthen those connections. Like, I think it was the Islamic Awareness Week last week, and I think it was, I saw them on the square every day, and they really persevered, and I think it was great, and I even tried some of the food, and it was really nice. And it's that kind of opening up so that they have a platform to stand on and promote what they want to promote, and just making sure that every single society that can do that can do that.
Thank you. Tappy?
Actually, I went to the event they had last Thursday, and I spoke to some of them and asked them, actually, how engaged do you feel with the Students' Union? And I asked them if this entire Awareness Week and the event they were running, whether or not they were doing it with LUSU, and they said, actually, we don't feel that engaged with LUSU, even though we're still doing this event. And I would like to do an event for them, potentially during Eid or Ramadan. So just raise awareness of what the cultural values are, what the religious values are, and just to get them directly involved with LUSU so that they can feel like they're part of the LUSU family, just as we are inclusive of everybody. Thanks.
Thank you. Josie?
I think this is something we spoke about at the NUS Welfare Zone conference that I went to at the beginning of the year, in particular dealing with any issues of like hate crime or engaging students of faith. And I think it is, like, for me, mainly encouraging any faith or religious group to get even into maybe LUSU in general, and get students' opinions and points heard on a bigger platform.
Thank you. And Becky?
There was Islamic Awareness Week last week, and I went to their question and answer session on Thursday. And I thought that was a really good session because loads of people came down. There was a lecturer from the university there and 2 other prominent figures in the Islamic Society. And they were able to ask questions, like any questions about, there were ones about gender, about headscarves, about Sharia law. And I think that events like that are really good because they reduce the misconceptions that a lot of people have about faith students. I've also worked with the Chaplaincy Centre in One World Week last year even. And I think events like that, which bring together non-religious students or agnostic students and religious students to have like an open forum about your beliefs and about what you really believe in and not what the media says you believe in, is really useful. And I'd look at promoting that within the Islamic Society and within faith societies.
Okay, thank you. Laurie, next question.
Hi guys. Basically, firstly, I would just like to say I'm glad that the role really incorporates community more. I think community is not just what happens on campus. It's also about the students who live in town and also at home in the surrounding areas. I think there's a big disconnect between town and campus. I'd just like to know your views and ways in which we can improve the sort of the connect between town, campus, working with businesses, etc., and what we can do in terms of more support for off-campus students.
Right, if that question could first go to Tappy, please.
One way we could do things, because we do a lot of our events on campus because it's a lot easier. But if we could actually have more events that ended up going into town to some location in town, that would get more off-campus students involved. This doesn't necessarily have to mean at night. So if we could have an event that's happening in the afternoon, we would probably, if possible, we'll see if we can do it in Williamson Park or somewhere like that, where people in town can say, oh, actually I can go and check that place out. And people who live on campus who don't necessarily go to town that often can also get to see some of the places that we have in town. That would get more people involved and engaged.
Thank you. And to Tom?
I think a really good thing that's happening on campus at the moment is the campus bars are really working towards attracting as many people as they can to come in the evening and spend time in the evening. And I know on a personal level I've been spending more time in campus bars because they've been creating a better atmosphere. And I think it's that kind of thing, if we can remind people off campus the benefits of being on campus and being in your college community and staying and being in your college bars, it brings together the people on campus and off campus. I like Tappy's idea of bringing campaigns back off campus and working in a sense that way. I mean, like people said, the Vagina Monologues, they had a big event off campus, and it really worked. It got more of the people who weren't on campus involved in the whole thing, and it's that kind of thing that we want to work towards, I think.
15 seconds. Oh, yeah. Good. Becky?
I think this is something that the Purple Card does well. I think a lot of people always ignore the Purple Card, but the Purple offers, such as like 20% off food in somewhere in town, offers in shops in town, actually do bring people into town and do make the off-campus students feel more connected. So I think more promotion of Purple Card offers, maybe like a map next to it so you can see where it is, because I know a lot of people who live on campus really don't know town. I think as well, like the other candidates have said, bringing campaigns off campus. I've been looking this term at organising a walk of respect, which is a slut walk type thing, but getting away from the misconceptions of the slut walk and having that in town to engage both the local community and off-campus students. And I think just making sure that when we publicise events, we don't just use Facebook, we don't just use Twitter, and we don't just use posters. We look for different avenues to engage these students who live off campus, but who still want to be involved.
Thank you. And Josie?
Yeah, I really strongly agree with the other three candidates. I think they've raised very good points about moving campaigns back into town. I know that when we did organise things for the Vagina Monologues, there were venues in town that were really willing to let us use them. And I think we should be focusing on like talking to venues in town and saying, okay, we're holding this event with our students. Would you be willing to do it? And I think that through that we can get a lot more productive events in town in general.
Thank you. Laurie, where are you going now? Sorry? Right, you've got everyone on the list, yeah? Okay. Next question then, please.
Hello. It's been touched on quite a few times about like the Vagina Monologues and the 1 Billion Women Rising campaign. And it's sort of I'm in Femme Society at the moment, and I went and saw the production. It was brilliant. And a lot of people in that were engaged, and I met people from LUSU like trying to organise things associated with like a Reclaim the Night march in Manchester, and people seem really engaged. But I'm currently doing Women and Gender Studies, and in one of our seminars we ended up with a discussion about harassment, and a lot of the people in my seminar basically said that when they're in town in particular, they often don't feel particularly safe. They constantly feel like there's like great harassment, even when they're with like, one girl said she's with her boyfriend and people still come up to her and sort of like flirt with her or try and get with her. And I was wondering, if people have been talking about community engagement, is what would the candidates do to try and counter these issues? Because I went into the base once and I found sort of leaflet advice on sexual assault, and it was from Lancaster Constabulary, and it was basically, in short, it was basically, oh, women, don't wear short skirts, don't get drunk. It wasn't actually something that could a really good education thing of, don't harass people, don't rape people, basically. And I'm just curious, what would the candidates do in terms of like getting these issues out into the community, so students feel like, particularly female students, feel safe? Because, as I said, these women in my seminar said that they go around and they feel safe. They might be other unis, but they still feel that it's not quite that good. So I'm just curious what candidates would do to tackle these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. And if that question could go to Josie first, please.
Yep. I think events like Reclaim the Night are really effective in what they do, and I know that I think we had a Reclaim the Night, not this year, but the year before, but there was obviously the organised trip to Reclaim the Night in Manchester, and I'd really like to bring that back if I did get elected. Also, I think encouraging students to look out for one another more. It sounds somewhat cliched, but I think people do forget that on a night out you're there with your friends, and at the end of the day you want to make sure all of you are safe as a group. And finally, just making sure that if anything did happen to a student at our university, that they knew exactly who to speak to and what port of calls that they could go through with that kind of stuff.
Thank you. Becky?
As someone else who's also studied gender and women's studies, and this is something that I think a lot about and get really angry about, I think if I was elected, I would love to work with the police and change the posters, because all of the posters, most of the posters from the police have this sort of underlying line that is not don't rape people, it's don't get raped. And I think that's so wrong, because you never ask to be raped. That's not something that ever happens. I was sort of thinking about organising the Walk of Respect. That would be an inclusive walk against rape culture and against the idea that you ask to get raped because you're being drunk or because you're wearing short skirts or anything like that. I think it really needs addressing. I don't think it's something that would change overnight. I think it's deeply ingrained more than that. But I would love to even promote, I don't know if you've seen it, it's called everydaysexism.com. It's a website where people tweet in the sexism that they've experienced every day, and it's shocking, and I'd love to work with the welfare team to address this.
Thank you. Tom?
I definitely agree with Becky in the sense that it's definitely something that's ingrained in our society, especially when it says about the posters. The police, especially at the beginning of this term, they started a new campaign, a new rape culture campaign, where they were talking about basically the posters were more effective, and we need to stop making posters that blame women for what they do, and more about blaming men and making men realise that what they're doing is wrong. I don't think that men are doing it. I don't think it's because it's ingrained into our society that men are doing it the way they're doing it, and it's slowly trying to worm that way out. Obviously, it's not all men, but it's something that we have to work on. And I think definitely working with societies like the Feminist Society and working with the police to try and ensure that these kind of campaigns are pushed in and made stronger is something that I definitely work towards.
You keep doing that, Tom. Tappy.
I already mentioned that I want to reintroduce a new campaign, which I'm going to call Stay Classy, Stay Safe. And this is going to encompass a lot of things. And one of the things would be safety when you're on a night out, and making sure that people stay with their friends and stay in contact, and basically just letting people know about the kind of stuff the situations you might be able to get into, and the best ways to avoid those things. And yeah, stay classy, stay safe.
Okay, thank you. Laurie, next question.
Hi. One of the most important and perhaps overlooked issues for the year is the engagement initially for international students in Freshers Week. I'd just like to get your opinion on where you'd stand in this role if elected, and how you plan to increase, or more along the lines of improve the, quite frankly, very basic training international reps get.
Okay. If that question could first go to Becky, please.
In Pendle right now, we're beginning to start organising the next Freshers Week. And I really want to train the reps before the actual week. Like last year we just had sort of a day to train everyone, and international reps did get more guidance, but I still think it's not enough. I think often international students are generalised into a group that doesn't drink, likes to stay inside, doesn't really connect with people, and I think that's not true. I'd like more awareness of different cultures, but still awareness that they're at a British university because they want to come here. They don't want to come here and just not do anything, if that makes sense. I think the International Students Association will be invaluable in this. I see the International Students Association as a voice for international students and a celebration of diversity within Lancaster, but also a tool for greater integration and greater understanding. I think it's just as much a problem with home students that aren't engaged as international students. I think we need more understanding of what everyone else does and everyone else's backgrounds.
Thank you. Josie?
I agree with Becky. I think that we need to focus on engaging students and also training students that are international reps before. But I'd like to see the introduction of the International Students Association to keep moving on forward with it. But also I think we're missing a valuable resource in home students that go on years abroad as well, because I believe that they can offer us some valuable information about their experiences that we could also incorporate back into the work that we do.
Thank you. Tappy?
I myself, I'm an international student. And when I first came here, I actually did come with the hopes of getting involved and getting engaged with British culture and English culture and such. And I don't think that every international student who comes and stays in the room doesn't want to get involved. It's just because maybe they have not heard about the alternative activities that may be happening, which is why I think bringing international student reps was quite a great idea. When we first pioneered this international student rep idea, in my college, we only had a select number of international student reps, and we did quite well. And this year, where everyone was given the training, what I would like to do is actually give everyone the training, but give a select few who the JCR picks advanced training, somewhat sort of like international student rep team leaders of sorts, and then they can be ports of call to engage the international students better, because they'll have more information about what's going on campus and how to best engage international students. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tom?
It's definitely intro week, and the rep system that is really a good way of first getting international students engaged in things. And one of the things that is being worked on this year is actually how we train the reps. And I think Tappy put it well. We shouldn't just be training international reps on how to handle international students, of how they can get to. How we can make them aware of the services available to them. I think we need to train every single Freshies rep. I know that there was a problem last year with international students getting off the coach from the airport and not knowing where to go, and it was that kind of thing. We need to make sure there's people who know that they're going to be there and that they can take them places, and it's the organisation and making sure we have enough people who know enough to get international students where they need to go and make them aware of how they can get involved in things.
Thank you very much. Next question.
Hey guys, building on the question from the Islamic Society about faith groups, do you think LUSU have involved faith groups in the past, and how would you increase awareness of other faiths?
Okay, and if that question can first go to Tom, please.
I definitely say that we haven't. There's something that we can definitely work on, and I think it's one of those where we have to. It's something we have to talk to the Islamic Society about, or talk to the Chaplain Centre about, or talk to these different groups and ask what we can do for them, and what they can do for us, and seeing what connection we can make that will improve their time on campus, their experience, and what we can do for them. You know, that kind of, it's definitely something that it's basically consultation and making sure that the problems that they have we can help fix, and we can work with them in a stronger manner.
Thank you. Tappy?
I can actually say we haven't done too much with respect to religious groups, and I know we've done some cultural stuff, and we've done Diwali, but the way I feel like things are a bit autonomous to LUSU. I don't feel like they're engaged enough, and what I want to do is actually to encourage religious societies to come to me, or to whoever else is elected, to come and say, actually, these are the kind of things that these are the kind of big events that we like to do. These are our globally significant dates. Could we potentially do something? Because we can't be psychic and know exactly what they want. So if we can encourage them to come forward and say, this is the kind of things that we want, then we can work together with them and get them more involved. And of course, that would involve actually going to them and saying, do you guys have any ideas? And that's, yeah. that's what I'll do.
Thank you. Josie?
Yeah, I think Tom and Tappy put it really well there in saying that I think that we could be doing more. And it is just a matter of speaking to faith groups and saying, what would you like from your students' union? Because there really isn't any limits to it. We can really help out on that kind of stuff.
Thank you. And Becky?
I do think there is some level of involvement with faith groups. I mentioned One World Week last year even, which we organised in conjunction with the Chaplaincy Centre. So I think there are links, but I think we can definitely build on those links. I'd love to see all of the faith societies coming together with students from politics, philosophy, religion, sort of that group of people, the students that really want to debate. Because we're all open-minded students at this university and we all want to find out more about other people's cultures, and I think a mass debate and a mass discussion about people's beliefs would be really beneficial both to non-religious students and to religious students to find out more about what other people believe and to believe more in their own faiths. I'd love to see a big debate.
Thank you. Follow-up question? Yep.
My question was really about the institution of LUSU in itself, because like Becky said, the students have organised things in the past, but I haven't seen much from LUSU doing anything about it. So I know that the JCRs can do many more things, but I'd like to see LUSU actually taking into account other people, because it seems like sometimes there is sort of an agenda. So that's just a point for you guys, really.
Yeah, just as a point though, JCR officers are LUSU.
I know, but it's the students that we're doing a lot of stuff, but LUSU haven't really been involved in much of that.
Do you want them to re-answer your question? No? Okay, we'll move on. Laurie, next question.
First question from me for the welfare and community candidates, and the only one I'm going to ask. No, the only one I'm going to ask. This year I've worked extremely closely, actually the closest SEO I've worked with has been Rosalia in her role as Vice President Equality, Welfare and Diversity, because she's a fantastic officer and has a lot of passion, but apart from that she has so many other skills that are transferable in so many other areas that she's been amazing to work with. What else can you actually deliver outside of your remit to the team for next year that will help the entire team be successful?
Okay, that question's going to Tappy first, please.
I'm sorry, can you elaborate your question, because I find it rather vague.
Basically, I've worked really closely with Rosalia, not because she's just great at doing things around equality, welfare and diversity, but because she has so many other skills aside from that. So we've worked very, very closely on other things, such as engaging with our local Member of Parliament, in working with the NUS and other different things. What can you bring to the table next year to help your team be successful that might not be within the remit of welfare and community?
Well, I like to think that I'm a person who can get really involved and can relate well with people. And I think at the moment, with the current change in the structures, a lot of the different positions have become a bit blurred, which allows for better collaboration with other positions. And actually, if you remember, I ran for CCO welfare, CCO education before, and I tried to convey that actually my skill sets are not just limited to just EWD, you know. So I like to think that I've developed a broad range of skill sets that allows me to actually work with the other FGO members, and that way we can become a more cohesive team. And that's what I'll bring to this role.
Thank you. Tom?
One of the main things that got me involved in LUSU was when I first started working for the front desk, and I think one of the skills that I definitely have is I pick up things very quickly. I mean, considering that this time last year I wouldn't have even fought for running for FDO, is something that I think really conveys well. I mean, it's been 6 months and I've got to this point, and I feel like I can do this, and I think it's that kind of idea that I can pick up skills and I can learn new things. I'm not going to be the kind of officer that says, you know, this is how we're going to do it. I want to be the kind of officer that says, look, I'm not going to know everything. You know, I'm only one person. Everyone else has different views on things, and I want people to educate me as well as me educating them. It's one of those things where it's give and take back, and I think that's something that I can really provide to the role.
Thank you. Becky?
I have a lot of transferable skills, I think. I have communication skills from doing a show on Balerig FM and being General Secretary for Balerig FM. I've also written for SCAN and for The Student Review, which is an independent online student newspaper. I'm quite creative, I think. I'm a published illustrator, which is kind of cool, and a dancer as well. I'm very dedicated to what I do. I work so hard. For example, I got 4 A-levels and extended project at the same time as volunteering in a charity shop, dancing and doing martial arts. So I think that shows how dedicated I am to the work that I do. I think as well I'm quite good with people, I hope. I used to work in a charity shop and was promoted to not quite manager, but I took over from the manager's job so she can do it. I did paperwork and tills and fighting with the printer every day. So yeah, I think I have a lot of transferable skills.
Thank you. And Josie.
I think having spoken to a few of the FTOs about it, just knowing that you're part of a team, you're part of a collective, and going in sometimes outside of your role to realise that you're all working together for the benefit of the union in that sense. So collaborating with other officers if I get elected to make sure that anything that we're doing is as strong as we can be doing it at the time.
Thank you. Rosalia?
In this role, you're going to come up against the university quite a lot. You're going to come head to head with them. And we're talking about very highly educated, stubborn people who are going to tell you that there's no way of doing what you want to be done. Do you have any experience of dealing with difficult people and getting your point across? And can you give me an example of a time where you think you've done that? Sorry.
Okay. Can that question first go to Josie, please?
Yeah, I think working inside a team, you're always going to be sometimes put in a position where your views conflict with other people's, but I think mostly it's about recognising that people are usually arguing out of passion or because they genuinely believe in what they're saying. So I think just from working in a team on a JCR or being the cross-campus officer for the LGBTQ star, noticing how to deal with people and to kind of sacrifice some of the things that you want so that you can push other ideas forward in that sense.
Thank you. To Becky now, please.
I think being determined and not giving up are the biggest attributes that you can have when dealing with difficult people. I have experience of campaigning with difficult people. For example, a couple of years ago, my road was resurfaced, but they did it wrong, so it became really icy, and we had maybe 10 dangerous crashes. Luckily, no one was seriously injured. But I managed to campaign by writing letters to the local council, by getting involved with local media, and by really making sure that my voice was heard. And we got a grit bin installed, and then I kept campaigning, and we managed to get the road resurfaced, which was something that I would never think that anyone could do. So yeah, I think it's just about not giving up, always presenting your points in a clear way, and just being passionate and believing in what you're saying.
Thank you. To Tom?
Being from an all-boys Catholic school, there was a lot of things that my views were up against. It's not something that, it wasn't ever something that I had to really push on, but it's the constant struggle of debating issues with people that didn't agree with you. And that's why, in part of my actual hust, I talk about people they aren't bad people when they don't agree with something that's right. It's just because they aren't educated on it, and I think that's something that is I really strive for as a person as well as an officer, is making sure that we don't just give up on people because they're wrong. We don't just take the moral high ground in a sense. We have to work with them, and we have to make sure that we have to slowly educate them.
15 seconds.
We have to slowly educate people to understand why certain issues aren't issues.
And Tappy.
With respect to going up head-to-head against people who are extremely educated within the university, actually, I currently sit on Senate, so I'm actually getting ready to be doing that just next week. And I actually work in a place where I have to deal with people who've got very strong opinions, and then, of course, they're usually a bit inebriated. I hosted an event in Pendle called Pendle Goes Global, and actually just trying to get that event off the ground was extremely difficult because I met a lot of resistance from the bar manager for Pendle, and I had to go through. We had loads of debates, loads of arguments. Then I actually had to go through channels. I had to use my SCR, I had to use Matt Saint, and I had to use I just had to use a lot of other stuff just to get my point across, and then we ended up doing the event anyway, and it was a big success. So just because one person says you can't do it doesn't mean that you actually can't do it.
Thank you. Right, I'm going to take the final question for this position from Twitter. So this question is, what is your opinion on the Sugar House offering free entry to only one gender? Becky, if you can take that question first, please.
I argued with Rosalie at the time about this and with some people about this. It wasn't Rosalie's fault, by the way. That sounded bad. I think the idea of having a sugar night which promoted women's issues and promoted the vagina monologues was brilliant, but it was gone about in completely the wrong way. I think instead of increasing cohesion within students and really getting the message out, it just looked like a really sexist, really segregated night, and I don't think it worked at all. I think the way they should have gone about it is like anyone wearing a pink t-shirt or anyone wearing a ribbon or anyone pledging their support to the cause should have had free entry if that's the way they're going to do it. I think doing it gender specific is not only really old-fashioned but also excludes all the transgender students that we have at the university.
15 seconds.
And it was just a really bad idea.
Thank you. That can go to Tom next, please.
I completely agree with Becky. It wasn't a good idea. It secluded a lot of people, and I think it made the vagina monologues look bad when it really wasn't their fault. They were doing it for a good cause, and you can understand the logic to why they might have chosen to do it, but I just think they went about it the complete wrong way. And I think, like Becky said, there's a number of different things you can do to promote it other than giving free entry. You know, we could have just said, you know, we're just going to give some of the I don't know, have people outside of books, just anything else. But that kind of thing, it's a negative. It creates a negative image that really shouldn't be there.
Thank you. Tappy?
With respect to Sugar House offering free entry to one gender, I think that the biggest problem with that was the poor advertising. Because people didn't understand why. When I first saw it, I didn't really know why they were giving just one, they're just giving one gender free entry. Of course, when I checked, I found out why it was for. It was for a campaign to raise awareness for that. And I asked, well, why don't you ever provide that same offer for men on another night? And they said, well, if someone had come to us during November and asked for us to do such a thing, it would have happened. But I do think that targeting, just saying that one gender can get in for free and not letting the other gender in for free is something that you just can't do that, because how are you going to tell if someone is self-defining as not being part of that gender? So I think the other ways in which you can offer this, sorry?
15 seconds.
The other ways that you can you can make offers which will promote a campaign without necessarily having to segregate people. So yeah.
Thank you. And finally, Josie.
I agree with the other candidates on this one. I think that the idea was there, the intention was good. And like Becky said, I think introducing something like a T-shirt that students could buy and then use to get into the venue that night would have been a good way to go about it. And as Tappy said as well, it may have lost its affiliation with the actual campaign that was behind it. But I think that it was definitely a good intention thing that we need to consider in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. And that is the end of VP Welfare and Community. Thank you very much.